My name is Maya Harrison. For 28 years I'd been the family punchline. The daughter who never amounted to anything while my brother Derek built Dad's legacy into a tech empire. At least that's what the family believed. If you've ever been dismissed by your own family, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. Growing up, I learned early that love in the Harrison family came with conditions. Derek was 4 years older, charismatic, and blessed with Dad's natural business instincts, or so everyone said. I was the quiet one, the bookish daughter who preferred coding in her room to networking at Dad's country club. Maya's just not built for business, Dad would say at dinner parties, martini in hand. Some people are thinkers, some are doers. Derek's a doer. Mom would pat my hand sympathetically. You're wonderful at your little computer things, sweetheart. Everyone has different talents. My little computer things. At 16 I'd already taught myself Python, JavaScript, and SQL. By 18 I was freelancing for tech startups, building their backend systems. But when I tried to show Dad my work, he'd glance at the screen and say, "That's nice, honey. Derek just closed a $2 million deal." The comparison was constant, corrosive, calcifying. When I was 22, fresh out of college with a computer science degree, Dad officially brought Derek into Harrison Technologies. The company manufactured industrial IoT sensors, the invisible tech that powered smart factories and supply chains. Dad had founded it 30 years ago, built it from nothing. This will be Derek's one day, Dad announced at the celebration dinner. The family legacy. What about Maya? My grandmother asked quietly. She was the only one who ever questioned the golden child narrative. Maya's not interested in the business. Dad didn't even look at me. She wants to do her own thing. That wasn't true. I'd asked to join the company twice. Both times, Dad said I wasn't ready yet, and that I should get more real-world experience first. Derek had been handed a vice president title straight out of his MBA program. I stopped asking. Instead I worked. I took a position at a mid-tier software firm, spent my days writing code and my nights building something of my own. A platform for AI-driven financial analysis, predictive algorithms that could spot market patterns humans missed. I called it Vantage Systems. My grandmother was the only person I told. She'd pull me aside at family gatherings, ask about my progress with genuine interest. Your grandfather would be so proud, she'd say. He always said you had his mind, the one that sees 3 moves ahead. He died when I was 25. Her will left me $500,000, explicitly designated for Maya's entrepreneurial pursuits. Derek got the family vacation home in Aspen. The money gap was obvious. Grandma always had a soft spot for you, Mom said almost apologetically. She worried you'd struggle. The implications stung. Charity for the daughter who couldn't make it on her own. I took that $500,000 and poured it into Vantage Systems. Within 6 months I had 3 corporate clients. Within a year I had 12. Within 18 months, a private equity firm offered me $50 million for a 40% stake. I took the deal. Suddenly, Vantage Systems was valued at $125 million and I owned the majority. I didn't tell my family. I wanted to see if they'd love me without knowing. Call it a test. Call it self-preservation. Call it watching people reveal who they truly were when they thought you had nothing to offer. While my family believed I was still figuring things out, I was building. Vantage Systems grew fast. Too fast for me to handle alone. I hired a CFO, Elena Vasquez, who'd left Goldman Sachs specifically to work with me. She saw what I was building and wanted in. Your family doesn't know? She asked once over coffee in our newly leased office space. No. Why not? I stirred my latte watching the foam swirl. Because the moment they know, everything changes. They'll want things. They'll diminish it somehow. Or worse, they'll finally be proud of me, but for the wrong reasons. Elena nodded slowly. You're testing them. I'm protecting myself. By 27, Vantage Systems had expanded into predictive analytics for healthcare and manufacturing. Our client list included Fortune 500 companies. Our valuation hit $180 million. I owned 61% outright. I lived modestly, a nice but not ostentatious apartment, a reliable Toyota, practical clothes. At family dinners I'd mention consulting work, and some freelance projects. Nobody asked for details. Why would they? Derek was the success story. Derek just secured a $50 million contract with the Department of Defense, Dad announced at Thanksgiving. Biggest deal in company history. Everyone applauded. Derek grinned, soaking in the adoration. That's wonderful, I said genuinely. How's your, computer stuff going? Uncle Richard asked, the question already dismissive. It's going well, actually. We just. Maya does some coding work, Mom interrupted as if explaining to a child. It keeps her busy. The conversation moved on. I was 27 years old running a $180 million company, and my mother thought I needed hobbies to keep busy. I smiled and helped clear the plates. Harrison Technologies continued growing. Dad was 70 now, talking openly about retirement and succession. Derek at 32 was officially named CEO. Dad kept chairman of the board. This company is Derek's legacy now, Dad said at the announcement party. I'm confident he'll take it to $500 million and beyond. I raised my champagne glass with everyone else. What nobody knew, what I discovered through Vantage Systems financial networks, was that Derek was hemorrhaging money. Not the company's money. His personal gambling debts, bad cryptocurrency investments, a lifestyle that burned through his $800,000 salary like kindling. And then, 6 months ago he started taking from the company. My algorithms noticed it first. Vantage Systems tracked financial patterns across industries, and I'd set up alerts for unusual activity in manufacturing sector companies. Harrison Technologies' numbers started showing irregularities. Small transfers to shell companies, vendor payments that didn't match normal patterns, expense reports with duplicate charges. I hired a private investigator. Not to hurt my family. To know the truth. The PI, Marcus Chin, delivered his report 3 months ago. Derek had embezzled $4.2 million over 18 months. He'd created fake vendor accounts, approved inflated contracts with kickbacks and siphoned money into offshore accounts. Dad's signature was on some documents, but Marcus believed Dad didn't know. Derek had been forging them. What are you going to do? Marcus asked. Nothing yet, I said. I'm gathering evidence. When I move it needs to be airtight. I watched. I documented. I waited. 3 weeks ago, Dad called a special board meeting. Family only, he said. Important company business. I wasn't invited. Obviously. But then 2 days before the meeting, Derek called me. His voice had that fake warmth he used when he wanted something. Why? Hey listen. Dad's having this board meeting about expanding into AI and predictive tech. You know, your area. Thought you might want to sit in, offer some insights. My area. After years of dismissal, suddenly my expertise mattered. What kind of expansion? Integrating AI into our sensor systems. Big opportunity. We're looking at strategic investments, partnerships, that kind of thing. I understood immediately. They wanted to pick my brain for free, get strategy consulting without paying for it. Or worse, they wanted to feel magnanimous. Look, we're including Maya. I could come, I said carefully. Actually, I've been following Harrison Tech's trajectory. I'd be interested in investing. Silence on the line. Then, investing. I've saved some money. Maybe $10,000 or so. If the company's expanding into my field, I'd like to be part of it. More silence. Then Derek laughed. Not kindly. $10,000? Maya, we're talking about $50 million in capital investments. But sure, come to the meeting. Your insights might be useful. The condescension dripped through the phone. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. The Harrison Technologies boardroom was all glass and steel, overlooking downtown Seattle. Floor-to-ceiling windows, original art on the walls, that specific smell of money and mahogany. I arrived early, wearing a simple navy dress and carrying my leather portfolio. The one that held documents they didn't know existed. Dad, Derek, Mom, Uncle Richard, company treasurer, and Aunt Caroline on the board, were already there. Plus Harrison Tech's corporate attorney, James Sterling, who looked uncomfortable. Paya. Mom kissed my cheek. I'm so glad Derek invited you. It's wonderful to have the whole family involved. I smiled and took a seat at the far end of the table. Derek stood at the head, a presentation already loaded on the screen. Alright, let's get started. As you all know, we're positioned to dominate the AI integrated sensor market. I've identified 3 strategic moves. He clicked through slides. Partnerships with AI firms. Acquisitions of smaller tech companies. An IPO timeline for next year that would value Harrison Technologies at $500 million. It was actually a solid strategy. Derek wasn't stupid, just corrupt and arrogant. Now the capital requirement, Derek continued. We need $50 million. I've secured $40 million from venture capital. We need $10 million more for optimal positioning. Dad nodded approvingly. The family should contribute. Show confidence in our own company. Exactly, Derek said. I'm putting in $2 million. Dad, Uncle Richard, we'd like you each to invest $3 million. Aunt Caroline, $1 million. Numbers that made my $10,000 offer laughable. That was the point. Actually, I said quietly, I'd like to increase my investment offer. Everyone turned to look at me. Derek's smile was patronizing. Maya, that's sweet, but we're talking serious capital here. This isn't. $15 million, I said. I can have it wired by Friday. The room went silent. Dad actually laughed. Maya, honey, where would you get $15 million? My business has done well. You're consulting? Mom looked confused. Sweetheart, that's impossible. You'd have to. Keep your pathetic savings, Derek cut in, voice sharp now. The facade dropped. This is a $200 million company, not a lemonade stand. We don't need desperation money from someone pretending to play entrepreneur. The words hit exactly as intended. Dad didn't defend me. Uncle Richard looked away. Mom's sympathetic smile said, Derek's right, honey, don't embarrass yourself. I opened my portfolio quietly. Inside were documents. So many documents. I'm not pretending, I said softly. Why, James Sterling, the attorney, spoke up. His voice was gentle but firm. Perhaps we should discuss your financial situation privately. This board meeting isn't. A knock at the conference room door. Everyone turned. Derek's assistant opened it, looking pale. Mr. Harrison? There are people here from the SEC and the FBI. They say it's urgent. 3 people entered. A woman in her 50s wearing a gray suit, an FBI badge on her hip. 2 men in darker suits, SEC credentials already out. Sorry to interrupt, the woman said. Not sorry at all. I'm Special Agent Victoria Reeves, FBI Financial Crimes Division. These are investigators Martin and Okonkwo from the Securities and Exchange Commission. We're executing a warrant related to Harrison Technologies' financial activities. Dad stood up, face reddening. What is this about? We've done nothing. Sir, please remain seated. Agent Reeves' voice was pure authority. We're here regarding a fraud complaint filed by your majority shareholder. It alleges systematic embezzlement, securities fraud, and wire fraud totaling $4.2 million. Derek's face went white. Majority shareholder? Dad owns 60% of the company. No, Investigator Martin said, opening his briefcase. According to our records, your father owns 23%. You own 15%. The majority stake, 61%, belongs to Vantage Systems LLC. I watched Derek's brain try to process this. Phil. Restart. Vantage Systems? Dad's voice cracked. What the hell is Vantage Systems? Agent Reeves looked at me. Ms. Harrison, you filed the complaint. Do you want to explain, or should we? Every eye in the room turned to me. I slid the first document across the table. A stock certificate. Harrison Technologies. 61% ownership. Vantage Systems LLC majority owner. Maya Harrison, sole proprietor of Vantage Systems. I wasn't hiding, I said quietly. I was watching. Mom picked up the document with shaking hands. Maya, what is this? 3 years ago, when the company needed capital for the sensor expansion, Dad took out a loan from a private equity firm. He didn't read the terms carefully. The firm had an option to convert the debt to equity if certain performance metrics weren't met. I pulled out another document. The metrics weren't met. The firm exercised their option and took 35% of the company. Dad's stake diluted to 23%. Derek's to 15%. Dad's mouth opened. Nothing came out. That private equity firm was a subsidiary of Vantage Systems. My company. I've owned the majority of Harrison Technologies for 2.5 years. You just never asked who held your debt. The silence was absolute. You. Derek's voice was strangled. You've been spying on us. Monitoring my own investment, I corrected. Which is how I discovered that you've been stealing from a company I own. I slid the PI report across the table. 200 pages. Wire transfers. Forged documents. Shell companies. Offshore accounts. Every single theft documented with dates, amounts, bank records. $4.2 million, I said. Embezzled over 18 months. You created fake vendors. You approved contracts with kickbacks. You forged Dad's signature on authorization forms. Derek grabbed the report, flipping through pages, his hands shaking. You can't. Where did you? I hired the best forensic accountant in Seattle, I said calmly. And the best private investigator. And the best corporate attorney. Because when you own 61% of a company, you protect your investment. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to set boundaries with toxic family, because what happened next changed everything. Aunt Caroline found her voice first. Maya owns the company? Since when? How? My company, Vantage Systems, is valued at $180 million, I said. We do AI-driven predictive analytics for Fortune 500 clients. I've built it over 6 years while you all thought I was figuring things out. I pulled out another document. Forbes magazine. The 30 under 30 list from last year. My photo. Maya Harrison, 27, founder and CEO of Vantage Systems. Mom's hand went to her mouth. You never asked, I said simply. You never asked what I was building. You never asked about my work. You assumed I was failing because that fit your narrative better. Maya. Dad's voice was weak now. Why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see if you'd love me without the money. I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I had nothing to offer. I looked at Derek. His face had gone from white to gray. You showed me exactly who you were. Every dismissive comment. Every time you called my work cute, or adorable, or little computer things. Every time you made me feel worthless because I didn't fit your definition of success. And then, I continued, my voice harder now, you stole from me. You took money from a company I own. You forged documents. You committed fraud. Against your own sister. Agent Reeves stepped forward. Derek Harrison, you're under arrest for wire fraud, securities fraud, embezzlement, and forgery. You have the right to remain silent. Derek tried to stand. His legs gave out. He collapsed back into the chair as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. No, wait, Maya. His voice cracked. I didn't know you owned. If I'd known. You would have stolen from me anyway, I said. You just would have been more careful about it. They lifted Derek to his feet. He was crying now, mascara-free tears streaming down his face. Dad, do something. Tell them. But Dad was staring at the documents spread across the table. Stock certificates. Forbes magazine. Bank statements showing Vantage Systems accounts. $89 million in liquid assets. His daughter's company. The daughter he dismissed as not being built for business. Mr. Harrison, investigator Okonkwo said, we'll need to examine your role in this. Some of these documents bear your signature. I never signed those, Dad whispered. Derek must have forged them. That's what we'll determine. The investigator's tone was neutral. You'll need to come to our office for questioning. Uncle Richard stood abruptly. I had no knowledge of any fraud. I'm the treasurer, but Derek handled day-to-day finances. I can provide my records. We'll be speaking with all board members, Agent Reeves said. They led Derek toward the door. He looked back at me one last time. Maya, please. I'm your brother. You were my brother when you stole from me. You were my brother when you called my savings pathetic. You were my brother every time you made me feel worthless. I kept my voice steady. You taught me exactly how much I was worth to you. I just raised my price. The door closed behind them. The room erupted. Maya, you have to stop this. Mom grabbed my arm. They're taking Derek to jail. This will destroy him. He destroyed himself. I pulled my arm back gently. I'm not sending him to prison. His crimes are. But he's family. Family doesn't steal from family, Mom. Family doesn't forge documents. Family doesn't commit federal fraud. James Sterling cleared his throat. Ms. Harrison, as majority shareholder, you now have decision-making authority over the company's future. What are your intentions? I looked around the table. At my father, who looked 10 years older than he had an hour ago. At my mother, mascara streaking her perfectly applied makeup. At Uncle Richard and Aunt Caroline, both calculating their own exposure. First, full cooperation with federal investigators. Complete transparency. We're opening every book, every account, every document. Harrison Technologies will be the model of compliance. James nodded, taking notes. Second, Dad steps down as chairman. Uncle Richard as well. We're appointing an independent board with no family members except me. Aya, you can't, Dad started. I can. I am. You allowed this to happen on your watch. Maybe you didn't know what Derek was doing, but you should have. You were so busy celebrating your golden child that you never looked at the actual numbers. Third, the company name changes. I'm not destroying Harrison Technologies. The employees, the clients, they've done nothing wrong. But we're rebranding. New name, new leadership, new direction. And fourth, I stood up, gathering my documents. I'm moving Vantage Systems headquarters to Seattle. We'll be integrating the companies. The technology Derek wanted? It's already mine. The AI platform he wanted to partner with? I built it. I looked at my father. Really looked at him. You said I wasn't built for business, Dad. You said I was a thinker, not a doer. Turns out I'm both. I just didn't need your permission to prove it. His face crumpled. Maya, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant. Yes, you did. My voice was soft but firm. Every time you compared me to Derek, every time you dismissed my work, every time you made me feel less than, you meant it. You believed it. But if you'd told me, if I'd told you, you would have found a way to diminish it. Or you would have suddenly been proud of me, but only because I fit your definition of success. I didn't want conditional love. I wanted you to see me. Just me. Without the money, without the company, without any of it. Tears were streaming down his face now. I did see you. I do see you. No, Dad. You saw what you expected to see. And I let you because I needed to know who I was without your validation. I picked up my portfolio. I know now. I'm someone who built a $180 million company from a grandmother's inheritance and my own talent. I'm someone who protected her assets and exposed fraud. I'm someone who doesn't need you to tell me I'm worthy anymore. I walked to the door, then paused. Derek's attorney will probably contact me about a plea deal. I'll consider it. But understand, I'm not doing this to destroy my brother. I'm doing this because crimes have consequences. Because family doesn't shield you from responsibility. Because I'm done being the punchline of a joke I never found funny. Mom's voice was small. What about us? What about Thanksgiving, Christmas? Are you just gone? I looked at her for a long moment. You can have my number. If you want to know me, actually know me, not who you need me to be. My door's open. But Mom, I'm not the one who left this family. I'm the one who finally stopped begging for a seat at a table that never had room for me. I left them there in the boardroom with its glass walls and expensive art, surrounded by the documents that proved I'd been worthy all along. The fallout was spectacular and swift. Derek pleaded guilty to wire fraud and embezzlement. His attorney negotiated a deal. 7 years in federal prison, restitution of $4.2 million plus penalties, permanent ban from serving as an officer or director of any public company. He'd been sentenced 4 months ago. Dad avoided criminal charges. Investigators confirmed Derek had forged his signatures. But the humiliation broke something in him. He retired completely, sold his house, moved to a small condo in Arizona. We talk once a month. Carefully. Awkwardly. Like strangers learning each other's language. Mom tried to maintain normalcy for the first few months, hosting family dinners that I didn't attend. Eventually she stopped trying. We meet for lunch once every few months. She asks about my work now, takes notes on her phone, tries to understand. It's progress. Slow, painful progress. Uncle Richard resigned from the company and moved to Florida. Aunt Caroline sends Christmas cards. Harrison Technologies rebranded as Vantage Industrial Systems. We integrated my AI platform with the sensor technology, and the company's now valued at $420 million. We're on track for a $900 million IPO next year. I'm the CEO. I hired Elena Vasquez as CEO. The employees, the ones who had nothing to do with Derek's fraud, thrived. Morale went up. Innovation accelerated. Turns out when you remove toxic leadership, good people flourish. I moved into a nicer apartment. Bought a Tesla. Started dating a software engineer who knew me for 2 months before learning about my company. We're taking it slow. I'm learning that not everyone sees success as something to exploit. Last week I had dinner with James Sterling, the company attorney. He'd become a friend through all this. One of the few people who understood what it cost to burn down your family's illusions. Any regrets? He asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I regret that it had to happen this way. I regret that my family chose to see me as less than. I regret that Derek made choices that destroyed his life. But do I regret exposing the fraud? Protecting my company? Setting boundaries? No. You could have handled it quietly. Avoided the arrests, the publicity. And taught Derek that family loyalty means tolerating crimes? That I'd sacrifice justice for comfort? That would have destroyed me. James nodded. You know, your grandmother would be proud. That made me smile. Grandma who left me the inheritance that started everything. Grandma who saw 3 moves ahead. She knew, I said suddenly. She knew they'd never see me clearly. That's why she left me the money specifically for entrepreneurial pursuits. She was giving me an escape route. She was giving you the tools to build your own empire, James corrected. What you did with them, that was all you. If you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments. What would you have done? Does any of this feel familiar? I still go to some family events. Carefully. With boundaries. My cousin's wedding last month. I went, stayed 2 hours, left before the drama started. I'm building new relationships with extended family who weren't part of the toxicity. Some bridges can be rebuilt. Others should stay burned. Derek writes me from prison sometimes. Letters full of apologies, explanations, justifications. I read them. I don't respond. Maybe someday. Maybe when he understands that sorry isn't magic, can't undo choices, can't erase consequences. My office overlooks Seattle's waterfront. Floor-to-ceiling windows, original art on the walls. The view that was supposed to be Derek's. The legacy that was supposed to be his. But here's what I learned. Legacies aren't inherited. They're built. By people who refuse to accept other people's limitations. By people who work quietly while others celebrate loudly. By people who understand that sometimes the greatest power move is walking away from a table that doesn't deserve you and building your own. I'm Maya Harrison. I own an $180 million AI company. I'm taking another company public for $900 million next year. I was dismissed, underestimated, and treated like the family failure. I just raised my price. And you know what? I'm worth every penny.